comment there about the Israeli ceasefire proposal, because you need to understand very well what the Israeli and American administrations want is total submission and surrender from the Palestinian resistance, and that is not going to happen. The Palestinian side will not accept a surrender deal to these genocidal maniacs. The American administration is applying pressure on Israel, or supposedly applying pressure on Israel to accept the ceasefire, despite the fact that they constantly support them and are participating in this. But the Israelis are confirming that there are certain concessions. Now, the fact that we reached ceasefire agreements before proves that there can be a path for a ceasefire. But any ceasefire, even if it's declared as a permanent ceasefire, will be temporary so long as Zionism and Israel exist. It's simply not going to be working. You cannot have any peaceful, sustainable solution so long as Israel and Zionism exist on the land of Palestine and even anywhere in the world. So long as they're legal, they're not like criminalized, every single one of them needs to be chased like people are chasing Zionist soldiers now all across the world. Similarly to how they chase Nazis. Zionism is far worse than Nazism. It exceeded Nazism a very, very long time ago. So long as that's available and legit, you're going to constantly have problems. They have been publishing information about this ceasefire up until it reached a point where one of the representatives of a Palestinian resistance movement, Muhammad al-Hindi from the PIJ, came up and said that what the American administration is saying is simply misleading. Why did he say it was misleading? He said because they're talking about one point that we are disagreeing on, although there are several points that we're disagreeing on. Again, why? So they can raise the hopes up high of the population and then all of a sudden make them lose hope. In, again, another attempt to apply pressure on the Palestinian resistance by having, a surrounding that is more upset with them rather than anything else. They do that alongside the killing, the mass killing, and as if it's nothing, of course. They don't report to you on mainstream media about any of the daily real casualties, the hundreds of people that get killed every single day. As if nothing is happening, as if it's acceptable and justified. And as if people being starved to death is totally fine in the 21st century. Now, their soldiers are clearly having a shift. In the beginning of the genocide, 2,000 ran away from the war immediately. People were protesting against Netanyahu on the Gaza borders. That's in the beginning. That's in 2023, in October 2023. But now it reached levels of sabotage in the Israeli Air Force. How? Look at this report here. Serious incident, the Israeli Air Force, 3 soldiers suspected of sabotaging drones. And they said that a soldier and 2 soldiers from the Palmachim base were arrested on suspicion of sabotaging several remotely piloted aircraft, drones. Their detention was extended till next week. Senior IDF officials are saying this is a serious incident, and the IDF spokesman is denying any harm to the operational capability. Why did they say it's sabotage, and why is it clearly sabotage? Because one of them apparently went and took out a core device from these drones that would affect them when they're flying, or potentially explode them, by the way. Because his solicitors are saying that, oh no, he made that by accident, he actually needed help, he wasn't really qualified. All garbage. He's trying to, of course, protect his client. He knew very well what he was doing. So you're talking about Israeli soldiers within the Israeli army who are not happy with how things are going, to a level where they are sabotaging their own Air Force drones. And these could be really big and expensive drones, by the way, not like small drones. Millions they cost, some of them 50 to 60 million. Very, very expensive. And at the same time, the numbers are falling. IDF to draw down reserve deployments by 30% amid soaring fatigue, falling turnout. They're saying in this report here in the Times of Israel that the reservist turnout sinks below 60%. And the number could be much higher, by the way. It shows you how much of a crisis they are in. And despite that, they're threatening with a bigger campaign in Gaza if the Palestinians don't accept this. Dude, you can't have anything. You cannot continue, you can hardly function. They're killing people, they're killing innocent people to cover up the fact that they're failing miserably and trying to flex around and show some sort of power or authority. They couldn't beat people walking with bare feet in Gaza, fighting them with sandals. And now the numbers are dipping more and more people are complaining of fatigue. And the final thing that I wanted to share with you is another example of how the United States always follows Israel blindly. How Donald Trump now is pulling out of the UNESCO, citing anti-American and anti-Israeli leanings. Firstly, with anti-American, he has no proof. He just sometimes says they're pro-China. Why does he say they're pro-China? It's because they're simply not aligned with any power. They're focusing on the heritage, important sites, sacred sites, whatever it is. But they're not going to take a pro-American or pro-anything stand. They're going to be neutral, as any organization should be. They have done nothing against the United States, the UNESCO, but they have done things that upset Israel. What are the things? Let me give you examples. Resolutions saying that Al-Aqsa Mosque is an Islamic mosque. That upset Israel. A resolution saying that the old city of Hebron in the occupied West Bank is an endangered World Heritage Site. That upset Israel. Resolutions criticizing Israeli actions against these sites. Israel gets upset and they start calling them anti-Semitic, and they're against the state of Israel, and they like the Jewish people, and they're the enemies of the country. So they've done nothing to Trump, but Trump, from an American perspective, you know, the quickest thing that he'll say to appeal to, you know, the idiots. Oh, they're anti-China, they're pro-China and anti-US. Anything, just throw garbage against China, as if China is the biggest threat to the world, not the US itself. As if China carried out all of these 100 wars in the past century, as if China landed a nuclear bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as if China went and killed millions in Vietnam and in Latin America and in West Asia and in Iraq and Afghanistan, as if China's supporting a genocide. It's the US that's the problem. The United States is the main problem, because without them, there wouldn't have been a genocide. So this move from Donald Trump is proving again just how linked they are with Israel. And despite the fact that Trump tries to, you know, distance himself sometimes and, you know, say certain things, talks about, you know, there's a lobby and there are people pro, people against. At the end of the day, he's still making moves only for the sake of Israel that have nothing to do with the United States or anything to do with any even risk against the United States.